Okay. I call to order the monthly meeting for the Charlottesville Redevelopment and Housing Authority on Monday, June 22nd, 2020 at 6 p.m. This is a virtual meeting, and I will read the governor's executive order allowing us to meet this way. Governor Northam issued an executive order EO 53 restricting public gatherings of greater than 10 persons, which I think now is 50. I'm not sure, but it still applies. Accordingly, code 2.2-3708.2A3 permits public bodies to meet electronically to discuss business required or necessary to operation of the public body in discharge of its lawful purposes, duties, and responsibilities in times of emergencies and to address COVID-19. Therefore, this meeting is being held electronically pursuant to Virginia law because the COVID-19 pandemic makes it impractical and unsafe to assemble a quorum physically in a single location. Leslie, would you like to do the roll call of commissioners? Is she still on here? I think we lost her.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Chair Recker,
Yes.
Vice Chair Oliver,
Here.
Commissioner Goldblatt,
Present.
Commissioner Osteen,
He may be muted.
Here.
Commissioner Slaughter, Commissioner Talbert, Mayor Walker.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Wonderful. Let's have a moment of silence. A lot going on in the world. Just take a moment before we begin. Thank you all. So for general announcements and meeting dates, I can mention some meeting dates, and then if anyone has other general announcements they'd like to share, please go ahead. I know that the next meeting is, well, the next regularly scheduled meetings are the redevelopment meetings that have been continuing Thursday at 2:30. And our next monthly meeting in July, I believe is July 27th, but we're going to double check that and we'll send that out. There was thought that maybe we would combine July and August into one last summer meeting, as had been done in other summers. But it's scheduled for July 27th at this time. Are there any announcements from anyone that they'd like to share with the community, whoever might be listening? Okay. I have one that is an announcement. I don't know. I see Kristen's on the line and I missed a meeting today, but know that if residents have children that are at home, they cannot do a summer camp. And thinking ahead to the fall, there is a group working on trying to provide some support. And I believe there will be a survey coming out just to see the ages of children that might be need support and what kind of support. And also a list of online summer courses and camps that have been collected that may be free or, you know, subsidized at some level. So Kristen Singh will be coordinating that for us, and maybe has more information on that later. Anything else? Okay, so we'll move on to public comments and our comments. I believe I think I see Dave Norris on here. I know a couple of public comments did come through email today.
I can read those if you want to start with those, and then if we have other members of the public that would like to speak.
Okay.
So we did, as many of you know, we solicit comments from the public for the board meetings through our CRHA comments@gmail.com email line. We received 2 comments from that email line today that I'd like to read to the board. First of all is from Dave Kravitz. Says, to the CRHA management, I live close to the apartments that you manage on 6th Street at Bowling Avenue. Every night for the past several weeks, there have been a tremendous number of fireworks, large and loud and by the hundreds, launched from the parking lot of this apartment complex. This begins about 7 or 8 p.m. and continues until 2 or 3 a.m. These fireworks are shot over the top of our houses and are certainly a huge fire and safety hazard. As well, many here, including my household, are getting little to no sleep night after night. I reached out to the city and Chief Brackney directed me to contact you directly and ask that you address this. So that is the purpose of this email. Can you please make an effort to stop these fireworks? Thank you, Dave. The second email that we received from CRHA comments@gmail.com was also about fireworks. It's from Brian Decker. To whom it may concern, I live a few houses up Monticello Avenue from 6th Street. Every night for the past several weeks, hundreds and hundreds of large and loud fireworks are set off from the middle of 6th Street at Bowling Avenue and from the parking lot of the CRHA housing at that same location. In the daytime, the area looks like a dump for firecracker detritus. This begins between 7 and 8 p.m. and continues until 2 or 3 a.m. every single day. These fireworks are large, littering the ground all over the area. Simply driving into the parking lots is an easy measure of how much is being launched. They are bursting over top of our house and our neighbors' houses. This is an obvious fire and safety hazard. We cannot sleep. Our dog paces all night long. Our neighbor with dementia is suffering tremendously. The non-emergency number to the police has been called by myself and multiple neighbors each evening. The police are patrolling and doing what they can, but are referring people to contact you, i.e. CRHA, at this time. Please help get this under control and also communicate with the surrounding neighborhood on what action is being taken. For reference below are the relevant ordinances and laws. Kind regards, Brian Decker. And then he proceeds to cite code from the city and from the state regarding the illegal nature of fireworks. So that's the comments that have been received through our comment line for your consideration.
And Dave, you said that was CRHA comments@gmail.com?
That's correct. Yeah.
I just didn't.
I see Miss Green is on here. I'm wondering if anyone in CRHA had received the it's about this besides these 2 comments.
I'm sorry, what was the last word?
Oh, just, I wondered if you'd already heard about the fireworks issue.
Yeah, I've heard about it. I do want to say it's not an isolated incident. It's just not about public housing. My daughter live in Orangedale, Bailey Avenue, and it's like a constant competition for some reason. I don't know if the COVID people are bored. The only thing we can do is send out a mass letter to read the policy to the people in the community about it. We do have Millennium that's getting out the cars and walking the property now. We also need the residents to step up and kind of help us out with who they know is participating in it. It's like a mad competition. My daughter said her dog is a nervous wreck, where the neighbor on the right hand is competing with the guy on the left hand, and they're doing it. So it's just not about public housing. It's just the area right now. But we did talk about sending a letter out to the communities and housing to let them know. And I will stick with being on top of security, checking to see if they can find out where these people might be, or see them going in a household or something to get an address.
Great, thank you, Claudette. So a letter to the residents, Millennium for extra security. It sounds like this is, I know in where I live, by the river here, well, on Chesapeake Street, we've also had fireworks the past few nights. So it may be that there's something about people being pent up in the summer. But we'll do our part in terms of asking the residents to help out and having Millennium specifically work on this. Any other ideas or comments?
This is Osteen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Why isn't it a police matter at some point? I mean, I understand their perspective, but if all we're doing is sending a letter and they're doing nothing because they think we've got it under control, I think we've got a disconnect.
And I can answer that a bit.
Thanks.
Sorry about that. So we're, I guess, grappling with a lot of issues in the community right now. First, it appears that for fireworks, maybe fire would be the first to respond, and a noise complaint, we would, send a warning. So we've been having these conversations too. And I even called today to speak with Kathleen to see, because there are some people who've actually went around to try to see where the noise was coming from. And it's not just, there's public housing, there's been Cleveland Avenue, 6th and Bowling. There are sites all around the community. So that's one
Right.
thing. We are trying to figure out from our standpoint what it looks like. And it's just the climate that we're in today, anything that we made is viewed as anti-Black Lives Matter. And that's the spin the community is placing on everything. And so trying to not incite or, create a reason where someone is hurt. People are pretty worked up about the police right now. That is, a conversation that we are having to have internally. But there is a noise ordinance, and some of the fireworks are illegal. And those are conversations that the city that we are having, all in this bigger context of the movement that we're in right now and the defund the police calls and some other very, emotional relationships in the community, not wanting to put anyone in a space where anybody's health and safety is jeopardized. So we don't have an answer yet, but we are having the conversations too.
I appreciate that answer. Thank you. It's complicated.
Can I ask an additional question? I'm thinking about the particular climate, and I know that because of the COVID-19 restrictions, the various meetings, the maintenance committee, none of those groups are meeting, but I'm wondering if there's any way to try, even virtually, to have a meeting of some of the residents living in the area, because I imagine that they too have kids and dogs and that this is disturbing them too. If there's an opportunity to talk to some of the residents and to see if there's a way that working with them, that there can be a solution in addition to sending a letter. If some of them say, I know some of the people who might be setting them off and I can talk to them, or something, if there's a way that we can try to build resident capacity while thinking about ways that they might be able to start. That might be something that's already happened, and I don't know what's possible given connectivity issues. But if there's any infrastructure at all, people who are already meeting, anything we could do, I'd be very happy to like send out a Zoom link or get involved in some of those conversations. And if there's a way, I think, to keep this community focused so that people could start to have conversations as a way to resolving it in this particular area.
I think this might even fall into the safety committee, which we're trying to work on reviving right now. We're trying to sort out who's going to be the next facilitator for that group.
Right, was that the, that was the committee that, not Claudette Green, the other Ms. Green was heading, and so that facilitator was not a CRHA person. Should we think about one of the commissioners taking that on, or I know FAR is already represented, I'm just trying to think about how to move that along. Does it need to be someone from the city?
I think we should have some conversation about it. I had a bit with Emily, and I'm happy to start moving that conversation forward.
Okay, just so that we're able to, that would be a good venue, that meeting. I had been to a couple of them and it seemed fairly productive to have, Millennium was there, police was there, CRHA staff was there, FAR was there. And I think having everyone at the table together worked really well. So yeah, if we can get that going again, that would be great.
Is there a board member that's interested in possibly chairing this committee?
I would chair the committee.
Great, thank you. Other public comment?
I just want to note, because I know eventually we're going to have FAR comment, I would just put this into the chat, but Wanda Johnson had written it in the Q&A box. She says that, that she and Brandon can't get in. The phone in option isn't working. I don't know if there's, anyone can respond, I guess, who's on here to the Q&A, but I don't know if there's additional details about how people can call in.
It looks like Brandon has his hand raised now.
Mr. Wheeler, are you?
Oh, I see it.
Okay.
So Mr. Wheeler, we have a couple of people who might be able to help. I don't know if Mr. Norris, Mr. Wheeler, there are people called the co-hosts who are allowed to let them in to speak.
This is Brian Wheeler. I'll be glad to check on the phone number.
Okay.
It does require a webinar ID as well as a phone number. So when people call that number, then you put in the ID and hit pound. But I'll check and make sure that's working.
Okay, thank you. Let's see.
Brandon he wrote into, he says he's here, so we have at least one FAR person.
Okay, great.
Hi.
Hi, Brandon.
Good evening, commissioners. Yeah, the phone thing was for somebody else who couldn't get on. It sounded like Monday was figuring this out. I'm not quite sure. I can check. Don't have a whole lot to say this evening. I'm Brandon. I work for FAR, the Public Housing Association of Residents. We are the Resident Advisory Council and Resident Advisory Board for public housing in Charlottesville. A quick note about the safety committee. Glad to hear that a commissioner will chair that. I think it's really important to have CRHA staff involved with that committee in order to have really actual implementation. I think we've had problems in the past with committees that didn't always have full staff participation. So just encouraging that, and I know that that can happen. And we'll talk a whole lot more about that stuff in the future. I did want to say, as you're talking about sort of reopening with a phase 3 or phase 2, I just want to throw out there, you know, the health and safety of tenants is vitally important. Folks have been struggling for many months. And whether or not the governor says everything's cool, you know, health and safety wise, it's still a struggle. And I personally would appreciate housing authorities continuing to do the extra precautions that you've been taking to ensure that folks are healthy and safe in their homes. I did want to add that the housing authority was super awesome about including FAR staff with your repayment agreement training. I'm really sorry that I missed that, but I think that is going to be a big deal as we're coming out of official restrictions. And I would encourage housing authority to maintain a moratorium. That might be hard depending on what HUD decides it's going to do. But at the very least, be prepared and proactive about repayment plans, not just waiting for residents to come to you, but you know, making that, integrating that as part of the process when somebody is behind on their rent. And you know, I'm hoping there's not a ton of those folks. A lot of folks have had a lot of help, but you know, the crisis continues. And the financial hit to residents is deep and is going to be long lasting. So repayment plans are a piece of helping people not fall all the way down. But I would encourage maintaining a moratorium on evictions. Just also want to throw out a reminder that revising the ACOP and the Section 8 admin plan those discussions do need to be revived. I'm not sure what CRHA staff, how much progress they've gotten into that since COVID happened, but that's all stuff that we really want in place before people move into new buildings and renovated homes. And that's a pretty big undertaking, but we're looking forward to engaging with you all or re-engaging with you all on the ACOP. Lastly, Commissioner Oliver and Commissioner Talbert have been amazing public housing advocates and hardworking members of CRHA for a very long time. I would like to just say a couple of things. Both of them were FAR interns. Latita was in one of the groups that I facilitated, and Audrey was sometime before that. But I think it shows that, you know, leadership can be helped along, it can be developed, it can be encouraged. And I think our program, you know, speaks a lot to that. But, you know, honestly, the work of these women has really been based on their integrity and their vibrancy and their ability to do the work. A whole lot of changes have happened in their time on the Housing Authority. I believe when Commissioner Oliver came on, Connie Dunn was still here. It was really messy. When Commissioner Talbert came on, it was messy, and I believe we were actually marching in the streets when she was first appointed, when she was a resident of public housing. And I wish I could name all the amazing things that have happened, but an amazing turnaround for this housing authority has happened. And a lot of that's because of the hard work of these two women, and they will be sorely missed. I'm excited for new commissioners, but I can't say more than, I can't say enough about these two and the extreme amount of hard work that they put into this work. And hope you'll stay connected, and I know you will, but you know, FAR really appreciates your service to the residents. And then lastly, I think, as Kathleen returns to a different position with the Housing Authority than the interim director position, I think accolades are also deserved. Kathleen has done a lot for this agency in a really short amount of time, had a lot of mess to deal with, and has handled quite well a national health crisis and pandemic. And I would say probably the most responsive director we've ever seen in terms of communication with FAR. Sometimes it's formal, sometimes it's been very informal, but extremely helpful. And we really hope moving forward that approach is adhered to, and we expect to have Kathleen's judgment included in all major decision-making for the Housing Authority. So that's it for now. I'm sure I'll chime in later. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other public comments? I'm looking at the chat to see if Ms. Wande, not Joy Johnson, Ms. Johnston, Ms. Johnson is trying to get in. Wande, are you still trying to get in for comment? Can't. All right, I can't, she's not writing on the message at the moment.
If anyone has a comment, if they could raise their hand.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. So for updates from commissioners, discussions, and board work sessions, we haven't had a work session. Do any of the commissioners have any comments before we move into the approval of minutes? Okay, so let's go to the approval of minutes. We have the Board of Commissioners meeting on May 14th, 2020 and May 21st, 2020.
Hearing no comment, I would recommend approval of the minutes for May 14th and May 21st.
I second.
Although, I can't say all those in favor. Roll call for who's in favor. Mr. Osteen?
Yes.
Ms. Goldblatt?
Yes.
Mayor Walker?
Yes, for the emergency meeting on the 14th. And I did not attend the meeting on the 21st. So
Thank you. Ms. Oliver?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Okay, wonderful.
Ms. Goldblatt.
Head to
Dave sent it.
oh, it's Miss Johnson. Hi.
Hey,
I just
I've
heard.
been trying to log in since 6 o'clock.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So we'll move on to approval of resolutions. So as Brandon and representing FAR mentioned, this is Miss Oliver and Miss Talbert's last meeting. We have a resolution for each of them. And I would echo his comments. I mean, I've not been on the board as long as they have. So I learned a lot from them. You know, when you're new, there's a lot to learn. And it was wonderful to be able to learn learn from them, even, just sort of watching them all. So does anyone, I have the resolutions before me. I don't know if anyone else wants to read one of them, or I can go ahead and read them. Okay, I will go ahead and read them.
Before we go, I really wanted to thank Ms. Talbert and Ms. Oliver for their service. I've learned so much from them. I've only been on the board for a year, but I'm sorry that Latita isn't here, but I have learned how to ask questions from her, how to be really thorough, and how sometimes I think as a new board member, when I've been confused, I've been afraid to ask a question because I think it makes sense to everyone else. And I have learned so much about speaking up when things are confusing. And so I really appreciate that. And from Ms. Oliver, I've really learned what strong advocacy looks like, what it means to stick to your values, and to say that sometimes the hard decision is the better decision. And so I'm really, I've learned a lot from them. I really value their service, and I'll miss being able to, I guess now just hearing them on these board meetings, but hopefully when we resume, seeing them.
Thank you. Anyone, and I did tell Ms. Talbert if she doesn't make it, we can formally read the resolution again when she's able to be with us.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead, and then if anyone else wants to chime in.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. Can you hear me? And I've only been on the board for a short time. And well, 6 months, but with COVID, we haven't been meeting, regularly. I had, been in other meetings, like the redevelopment committee meetings with Ms. Oliver. So I've seen her and heard her voice and perspective more than Ms. Talbot. But I think when you're like even hearing Brandon say that both of them came through the leadership training program. And, one of my first thoughts was just some of the stuff that they got, you just can't get even from a leadership training program. They, you want that kind of fierce advocacy, in the room when you're there. So I wish that we had, more time together. And Ms. Talbert, definitely, only have experienced a few meetings and with her, and I really enjoy watching her ask questions and listening until she gets, very clear answers that she's comfortable with. And I really enjoy, being a part of that. So I wish we had more time together is probably the only thing that I have, to say, but I hope that both of you know that what you all bring to the table is needed in the community, and so many people benefit from it. So I hope they're, I already know that we just voted position Ms. Oliver on the Red Street Task Force. So I know she will be involved, but I'm hoping that Ms. Talbot will continue to.
Thank you. And does anyone else want to comment? And I wish we were in person because I feel like we could have a much more celebratory ending for this. It's a little bit awkward on a call. But yeah, I totally echo Ms. Talbert. I realize she helps us all realize sometimes when we have been discussing something over weeks that we've like dove really, into some subject matter, and she always kind of brings us back to remind us that in these monthly board meetings, when residents may be watching, we need to back up and explain it clearly, because even though we've been trying to understand it for ourselves, and so have had a little more time to think about it, we get into discussions and sometimes it's really hard to understand what we're even talking about. So I always appreciate when she kind of brings it back and says, like, all right, how do we say this for people that haven't been thinking about this for a couple of weeks? And I know Ms. Oliver also had already been so she's finishing 6 years, both are finishing 6 years. And Ms. Oliver had been a commissioner previously on the board. So this is her second sort of ending of a term. All right, I'll go ahead and read the resolutions. Okay. And Ms. Slaughter, I think, is trying to get on the phone. So resolution 1414, a resolution recognizing the dedication and effort of Ms. Audrey Oliver and her service to the residents and HCV CSRA program participants of the Charlottesville Redevelopment Housing Authority during her 6-year tenure as CRHA Board Commissioner, Board Treasurer, and Board Vice Chair. Whereas Ms. Oliver volunteered and was appointed by the Charlottesville City Council to serve the CRHA community as a commissioner of the CRHA Board of Commissioners beginning in July of 2014. And whereas Ms. Oliver was appointed to serve the CRHA community as treasurer of the CRHA Board of Commissioners beginning in July 2016. And whereas Ms. Oliver was appointed to serve the CRHA community as vice chair of the CRHA Board of Commissioners beginning in July of 2019. And whereas during her tenure on the CRHA board, Ms. Oliver has worked diligently to represent the needs of CRHA residents while ensuring the ongoing health and well-being of the agency. And whereas Ms. Oliver has brought her institutional memory, experience, and history with the CRHA and her commitment to the fundamental values of public service. And whereas the Board of Commissioners and Charlottesville Redevelopment and Housing Authority wishes to express its appreciation for the admirable work that Ms. Oliver has done on behalf of the CRHA community over these past 6 years. Therefore, be it resolved and known by all that with much gratitude, the Board of Commissioners of the Charlottesville Redevelopment and Housing Authority do hereby recognize and formally commend Ms. Audrey Oliver for her admirable efforts exercised on behalf of the residents of the CRHA, thus benefiting not only those directly served, but the greater Charlottesville community as a whole. So anyway, thank you to Ms. Oliver. I very much hope we can find a way to celebrate you in person at some point. I'll move on to Ms. Talbert, and I'll go ahead and read hers, and we can read it again if she can join us, maybe come in next month, which is what we had done. Mr. Bellamy had missed his final resolution. For some reason, he was out. I think he was out of town. Anyway, CRHA Resolution 1415, a resolution recognizing the dedication and effort of Ms. Latita Talbert in her service to the residents and HCV CSRA program. Oh, hold on. Oh, she is still not with us. That's what she was telling us. Program participants of the Charlottesville Redevelopment Housing Authority during her 6-year tenure as a CRHA Board Commissioner, Board Vice Chair, and Board Treasurer. Whereas Ms. Talbert volunteered as a commissioner and was appointed by the Charlottesville City Council to serve the CRHA community as a vice chair of the CRHA Board of Commissioners beginning in July of 2014. And whereas Ms. Talbert was appointed to serve the CRHA community as a treasurer of the CRHA Board of Commissioners beginning in July of 2019. And whereas during her tenure on the CRHA board, Ms. Talbert has worked diligently to represent the needs of CRHA residents and brought her expertise and her own experience with the HCV program to light. And whereas Ms. Talbert's commitment to a resident-centric approach to the management of CRHA demonstrates the fundamental values of public service and asset-based community leadership. And whereas the Board of Commissioners of the Charlottesville Redevelopment and Housing Authority wishes to express its appreciation for the admirable work that Ms. Talbert has done on behalf of the CRHA community over these past 6 years. Therefore, be it resolved and known by all that with much gratitude, the Board of Commissioners of the Charlottesville Redevelopment and Housing Authority do hereby recognize and formally commend Ms. Latita Talbert for her admirable efforts exercised on behalf of the residents of the CRHA, thus benefiting not only those directly served, but the greater Charlottesville community as a whole.
Thank you, Beth.
All right, and we have a third resolution. First, so this is the resolution to negotiate contract for the executive director position for CRHA. And before I read it, I just wanted to say thank you so much to our search committee that was chaired by Ms. Goldblatt and Ms. Oliver. I thought personally, I thought they did a really great job of moving things along, being transparent, and kind of keeping everyone in the loop of the process. So thank you. And thank you to everyone else who's on the committee that may not be on the call, but the residents, I see Brandon Joy was on the committee. Dave Norris was on the committee. So thank you for everyone for all your comments and participation in time. So the board met on, oh my gosh, I think it was Friday. Was it Thursday, Friday? Thursday. The board met in a closed session and voted to hire John Sales as our permanent executive director. He comes to us from the city. He's now the housing coordinator with the city of Charlottesville, so has been involved and understands our redevelopment process to date and where we are. And we're excited for his hire. I'll go ahead and read the resolution, and then I know that John is a participant in the call. I don't know if he can jump over to webinar and just say hi, but we'll welcome him wherever he lands on the Zoom call. So a resolution to negotiate contract for the executive director position, whereas the Charlottesville Redevelopment and Housing Authority, hereafter CRHA, is a local housing authority, and whereas CRHA is governed by an appointed board of commissioners, which is empowered to make all managerial and financial decisions for the authority, including the decision to enter into employment contracts with its employees. And whereas CRHA wishes to hire John Sales to serve as the permanent executive director of the authority. Therefore, the board, by unanimous consent, does this 22nd day of June 2020 hereby authorize and direct the board chair to work with the board attorney to negotiate Mr. Sales' contract, and based upon that negotiation to execute an employment contract for the position of executive director with salary and benefits commensurate with his experience and qualifications, not to exceed those set forth in the published job posting. I don't know that we need to vote on this because we voted, I guess we vote on this even though we already voted, but this is to vote to move forward with the contract. And then I can give a quick update after the vote. So do I have a motion to pass this resolution?
I move to pass the resolution.
A second?
I second.
Great. So I'll do a roll call again. Mr. Osteen,
Yes?
Ms. Goldblatt,
Yes.
Ms. Oliver,
Yes.
Mayor Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Slaughter, are you on the line? Not sure. Okay, so myself, yes. And let me check the participant list if Ms. Slaughter's showing up. Ms. Slaughter, if you can hear us, make sure to write. Oh, is that you?
I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you. Say that again.
Oh, Ms. Slaughter, we're just, we're voting on the resolution to negotiate with the new executive director.
Yeah, I heard. I've been here, but I just couldn't. I guess you couldn't hear me.
I thought you were there somewhere.
Yeah.
Are you voting yes to the resolution? Yes. Okay, thank you. Good to hear your voice.
Thank you.
And I'll give a little bit of an update. And Mr. Sales, are you, I know you're on the call, so we can say welcome to you. Thank you for being with us tonight. We're really excited to work with you. I thought I would just give an update. We're working through his contract. I think anything of content has been agreed on. But Mr. Oberg, our lawyer, noticed some things in the contract. So we're going to work out kind of the legal, make it a tighter, better contract. And then we're also going to update the performance review because Mr. Sales will be in a 6-month probation period before his contract, the full contract kicks in, so that we're very clear about what he's going to be, what we're looking at that performance review. So the board will be working on that with the hope that right now the start date is probably August 3rd, although he's being very flexible and easy to work with in case we need to move it. But August 3rd sounds like it'll be the date for him to start. I keep looking.
Okay.
So John, excitement. Anyone else want to say anything at this point?
Welcome, Mr. Sales.
Welcome.
Welcome, Mr. Sales.
Great. And we'll find a way to roll out welcomes to residents and different stakeholders once we get, we've got a little bit of time to plan out how to introduce him to all of our different committees, stakeholders, and obviously work with the staff as he gets rolling. I also wanted to mention that Ms. Glenn Matthews has really stepped up in her time as interim, as I think also Mr. Collins mentioned. Not only did she kind of step up and kind of dig into some of the more troubled, detailed aspects of CRHA that had been kind of waiting for someone to work through, and has really improved our, I think, relationship with HUD and given us a positive direction for making some changes. But also through the past 3 months with the COVID-19, as was stated, she stepped up and tried to anticipate the needs of the residents and how we could get ahead of helping them, supporting them, thinking about, the moratorium on evictions, going for several grants and being very successful with that to ensure that we would be able to help those residents who will need help to stay in their homes. It's very hard to shelter in place, obviously, when the place is unstable. So I really commend her for stepping up to the plate. And she has agreed to stay on until Mr. Sales comes on August 3rd, and also work to make the transition as smooth as possible. So
Thank you.
Thank you, and we appreciate the support that you provided during this time, and we're glad that you will still be with us.
Thank you, Kathleen. We're glad you're still.
okay, let me go back to the agenda. And again, I feel like all of these things are going to need more celebratory, maybe in person, spread apart, some kind of more positive celebratory experience when the time comes to celebrate all of these people. So I guess Ms. Glenn Matthews, the COVID-19 update, you want to take that?
Yes, and real quick, I think Mr. Sales is trying to talk. Could we?
Oh, okay. Mr. Sales, if you're, let's see, Mr. Wheeler or Mr. Norris, can we move him over to the webinar side?
There you are.
Hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to serving the community and working with the Housing Authority to accomplish its goals and work with FAR, the residents, board, and the staff. So thank you for the opportunity. Kathleen, definitely look forward to working with you and getting to know everything that's going on, because I know I've seen a lot of it, but a lot of it I have not seen. And I know you've been in the weeds working on it. So thank you.
Okay,
Great. Thank you, Mr. Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you.
I wanted to start off by just answering one of Brandon's questions with the policies we're working on for the voucher program for admin, and also the rent reasonableness is it was part of one of our corrective action plans. And I talked to HUD about this, and they had asked us just to pause a little bit while, since we're under the waiver right now during COVID. And we're also using this time we had the repayment agreement training, which will be part of it. And we're also bringing in rent reasonableness software and doing training with staff on that. And so as soon as staff have completed that training, I know Ms. Green's been working really hard on these policies as well, and we'll be bringing a draft to the board. Our COVID update is we just want to say that we will not be opening our offices to the public until we feel it's safe. As we're looking at having to relocate all of our staff over this year, some of them in just a few months. We'll find Mr. Sales is going to be looking for new space as soon as he starts, and we'll be helping. Just the great expense that it's going to require to provide a safe environment for our residents and staff may be better spent if we wait to invest it until after the move. When we do decide to open offices, it also won't be a snap back to the way it was before. It'll be careful, intentional, office by office, and gradual. We're proud as staff of the early action we took to protect the health of residents and employees. And we really just want to be able to still focus on community health at the moment. The virus is still here. And this will remain our top priority as we work through the unknown in the coming months. We are working on bringing more staff back to work, but that's also still a bit of a juggle. We have really outdated offices that don't have great ventilation. So we're working on, we sent a draft of a plan for having employees return back to work, and we're moving very slowly with that. We want everybody to feel safe. We're having a lot of conversations about it. We've also been exploring other office locations that we could move to, and we've paused a little bit on that as well because we want to have an opportunity to see if Mr. Sales can be part of that conversation. And that's what I have for now as far as what we're working on.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? I will note, just for anyone listening, the new office space is related to the redevelopment, not just because not just for safer space for COVID, but the timing is coincidental, but makes sense in terms of moving people.
And I'll let Mr. Norris touch on that timeline a little bit too when he gives his report.
I was just wondering if we could get some insight into, I appreciate the caution and to say not to reopen until it's safe, but I would love some insight into some of the signs. Are we looking for a particular kind of drop? At what point can residents and other people start to expect that things are safer?
I mean, some things we would be looking at is if there's a vaccine and safe treatment for people. Our current space, we're also looking at using technology to have better ways to communicate with individuals so they're in a safe space. We know that even when there is a vaccine, we're going to have individuals who may not feel comfortable getting it or due to various health concerns not be able to. So I predict it's going to be a while, and that's why we really want to focus on using technology to provide, just safer places. There's a lot of models that we've looked at talking to UVA and the city as well, and where they expect, virus levels to go up, especially in the fall. And we just want to be prepared and mindful in this. Safety is our #1 priority.
Thank you.
We can move on to development updates, which I'm assuming is financial development and not redevelopment. Is that?
I think that was supposed to be redevelopment.
Okay, so either way, we'll do redevelopment.
There is some updates too, just with the grants we've gotten, and I know Dave's going to be talking about that.
Okay, so redevelopment updates. We do have, as Ms. Glenn Matthews mentioned, we've had some very big news just in the last week regarding 2 grants or 2 financing options that we've been exploring. One is a very, very competitive and rather prestigious grant that we were awarded this week from Governor Northam. It's called the Vibrant Community Initiative. This is a grant that's it's a $2 million grant. The state only awards 2 of these every year. Charlottesville Redevelopment Housing Authority won a $2 million grant, and Newport News won a $1 million grant. These are for innovative housing and community development projects that are underway in the Commonwealth. So we're really grateful to have that show of support. This is specifically for our South First Street Phase 2 project. Which, as you all know, has involved a whole lot of resident engagement. And this grant gives us an opportunity to fund some innovative components of that project around Section 3, which is probably the major driver why we got that grant, was our commitment to hiring residents and potentially contracting with residents for some of that work, but also the food justice angle and just this sort of holistic community development angle that we're taking with that project. So really pleased at that announcement. 2 days later, we received word that our low-income housing tax credit application for South First Street Phase 2 was also approved by the VHDA board. So that's $16 million in tax credits for South First Street Phase 2. Between those 2 commitments, ones that have already been approved or committed by the city of Charlottesville, and some private donors. We now have enough funding to move forward on South First Street Phase 2, which is very exciting. So I want to give a big thanks to everyone who was involved in putting those two applications together, specifically Jeff Meyer from BCDC on our low-income housing tax credit application. He played the lead role on that. And we want to thank Ashley Davies and Chantel Bingham for their work on the Vibrant Community Initiative grant. But it was a whole team effort on both of those projects, and could not be happier about the outcome. And to date, that means we are well over at this point $75 million that we've raised in commitments for our redevelopment initiative, starting with the $5 million check from Dave Matthews Band back in November of 2018. In the last year and a half, we've secured, again, over $75 million in commitments from a variety of sources for our redevelopment work. So obviously what we're doing is resonating with people who write the checks, and that's huge. And none of it would have been possible without the collaboration with FAR and our residents, because I think honestly that's one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, why our projects are standing out, is because of the commitment to resident engagement and resident-led redevelopment. So big thank you to our whole redevelopment team for all of that work. In terms of other redevelopment updates, I see Joy is on the call. Section 3 is continuing to move forward. Our residents completed the online training program. We have, as many of you know, a partnership with the city and PVCC on our first class of resident trainees and construction skills training. They completed the online portion, and last week they got out into the community and are actually doing some hands-on renovation work at Mickey Drive, practicing some flooring, some carpentry, some paintings, and I think this week they're doing some drywall. Joy, I don't know if you want to, I know you're very proud of our residents, and anything you want to add to that?
No, so they have 1 week in the building, and now they're back in class again this week, but they will be back on site again. They had to finish out a core competence that they have, and there's some folks who needed to finish or retake some tests.
Okay.
So we started out with 10 and we ended up with 6, and most of them of our public housing residents. We have 3 additional Section 3 participants who are not in that class, but they're working with CRHA. And from what I'm hearing, the staff is okay. They're doing a good job from what I'm understanding. And there may be 2 more hires. I'm just talking to people. I had 2 down weeks because of death and me being in the hospital, but still I have 2 people that we have to get to fill out application, and then we will have 2 additional. So that's like 11 people will have in the Section 3 program that is actually doing some work. We have 1 who, and I kind of wish COVID hadn't been there, that we could have worked with one of the participants much more, especially with network to work. That part of the support, I have to really get with Frank so that we can make sure that when people are falling through the cracks, that they're getting the support that they need, because I feel like one of them could have benefited a little bit more from network to work, from more than what they were getting from Holly and the Job Club. So that is basically it for me. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you for all your hard work. A couple other redevelopment related updates. We received a presentation last Thursday at our project team meeting from GMA Construction regarding a potential new approach to renovating Crescent Halls in the age of coronavirus to minimize contact between residents and construction crews. We're meeting with the relocation advisory team next Monday, I believe, to get some input from some of our public health partners in particular about that new scheme, and want to make sure we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. But I think it has some good potential. So it's not a done deal yet, but we're certainly doing everything we can to flesh that out. Kathleen mentioned or asked about timelines. Both of our projects, we are currently aiming to get underway by August or September. So that's the current plan. Let's see. I also wanted to note that we, as you all know, unfortunately lost Richard Shackelford a few weeks ago now. He was one of the resident members of our redevelopment committee, who was an official voting member of the redevelopment committee appointed by the CRHA board. So there is a vacancy now in terms of official voting members of the committee. He was appointed to that committee because of his then role as president of the Crescent Halls Tenant Association. I conferred with FAR last week, and there seemed to be a consensus that the logical sort of replacement would be the current president of the Crescent Halls Tenant Association, who's Miss Alice Washington. I spoke with Alice. She is eager and happy to serve if appointed. And so we wanted to see if the board concurred, and if so, if there's a motion to approve Miss Alice Washington as an official voting member of the redevelopment committee.
I think if that's far as in your recommendation, then I'm happy to move forward with Ms. Washington. And unless people want to have further comment on that, to make a motion to have Alice Washington become a voting member of the team.
I would second that.
Well, not all those in favor. Roll call vote on that. Any questions? I think it makes sense. Ms. Washington wowed the conference.
That's right.
So that just gives her, she should just be put right in. Anyway, let's see, Mayor Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Osteen?
Yes.
Ms. Slaughter?
Yes.
Ms. Goldblatt?
Yes.
Ms. Oliver?
Yes.
And myself, yes. So yes to Ms. Washington joining as a voting member.
Great, thank you all. That's all I had for tonight, unless there's any other questions.
I just wanted to say a huge congratulations to the team working on Section 3 and on development. This is just like, I can't imagine a more inspiring process and outcomes. I know you guys have been working really hard under really trying circumstances. And it makes me really proud. I just feel very honored to be able to be on the board. And I'm so excited about the work that you're doing. And I can't wait to see more residents as part of the Section 3 program. I'm so, South First Street was amazing. And I can't wait to see the next site that's resident led. It's just people are going to write books about this. It's really awesome. And you guys should be really proud of yourselves.
Thank you.
Very well said, Ms. Goldblatt.
It's almost unbelievable. When she was talking, I was just thinking about when we were at the housing conference and the guy stood up and said, "We can't do all of this." So it is one of those things that is really coming together, and it's coming together really well, and all the amazing work that everyone is doing, including Ms. Johnson, leading this, and how passionate she's been about it. It is something that other people, they think is something that happened overnight and don't understand that people have been building, putting these, kind of bricks in place for decades to get to this point where it seems effortless, but it hasn't been. But, it's really great.
And one of the things I wanted to say that part of working from home, what I have learned, working from home is really, really hard when you're trying to connect the resources. It's much better to get in your car and just go sit in front of people, because then, but anyway, that's my soapbox. But anyway, what I am also, I think what people have to understand is that people have different learning curves, and it's not always that straight and narrow thing. And Dave and I have had this conversation where I can read very well, right? And I can comprehend. But when it comes to testing, something just happens in my brain where I either overread or underread. And I feel like other people are like me. And so
You're muted.
hold on. Yeah, to put a person out of a class because they can't keep up, again, those are the kind of things that I'm saying, that in order to make somebody successful, you have got to figure out what is needed to make sure that person doesn't fall behind or lose, because putting a person out of a class kind of demean it does something to their self-esteem, right? And so we have to continue to build it up. So things like work, I feel like we just need to figure out how we make sure that people get what they need, even if it's at a slow pace.
I agree,
I
Ms.
agree.
Johnson.
Yeah, and I agree with that. There are so many things that we are having, to unlearn, and even at, the global level, because, students aren't able to take like the admissions test to college. All of a sudden, those become, null and void. You don't need them. And what we know in the first place is that you didn't need them anyway, and they were used as tools to kind of keep people out. And so, especially when we're doing this work, it's going to be important for everyone, and especially people who we partner with, to understand that, most of the time when people are not starting from the same foundation, is not by choice. These systemic issues that directly relate, especially related to, racism and other discriminatory practices, those are the type of things that hold people back. And so we don't want to be, people who are, perpetuating that type of behavior. So I hope that there's a commitment to, kind of bend over backwards to make sure people need, have what they need, and that we can get our partners. And I know that's a conversation we've been having at the city too, to understand that.
One last thing I would like to say is I think that I would like to really, give a big shout out to my partner in crime, Audrey Oliver, because we have been in some meetings where we are looking at each other like, why the hell are we in this meeting? Or we didn't bargain for this. But also the other women from South First Street. And I think I shared this with someone last week, that a lot of times when I go to conferences, I don't just go to conferences just because it's, I get to eat some of the best food and hang out with some of the best people, but it's about networking. And I think having the residents on a panel there at the governor's conference, and then being able to network with Ashley Davy and myself, I kind of dragged her to go up to the panel and say, will you come to Charlottesville and see what folks are doing? So I guess for me, it's networking. I think a lot of this, did I drag you too, Carolyn?
Yes. We know you didn't exactly, but I've been there.
Yeah, so I just want to say it's a big shout out to CRHA and I know Grant did this also. I hope Mr. Sayers is hearing what I'm saying, but it is always good to get residents to a conference just to show what they can do or just to get them to see, what is happening. So again, big shout out to Audrey and the women, the 12 women from South First Street, because they actually are making history. They're making history, and they will go down in history for the work that they have done. So I just want to give a big shout out to all of them.
Thank you. Anything else related to redevelopment? Okay. If not, those meetings are 2:30 on Thursday. Dave Norris would be a great person to contact if you want to learn how to get into the meetings, but they're all public meetings. So last thoughts. We have public comments opened again. Let's see. I think we can look at the participants, see if anyone wants to raise their hand or tell us that they want to, if they can call in or if they're having any trouble.
I do.
Yes.
This is Audrey.
Go ahead, Miss Oliver.
Oh, okay. I see somebody else is trying to comment. Carolyn. I just want to say thank you to everybody who spoke nicely and the beautiful comments. I'm off the board, but I'm still a resident of public housing, and I am still a leader in the community. I'll still be here. I'll be here to continue to support the board. My mission is still to see redevelopment completed if I live long enough, and to just to be here for the community, and to continue to support the board and each of you. All of you have been great. And I just ask that you continue to support the residents and that you do the right thing. And, I just really appreciate all the comments and the time that I've spent on the board. And yeah, it has been my second term. I don't plan to do 3. This is my retirement time. So this is what I'm trying to do. But I will be here to support all of you. So thanks a lot for all that you've done and that you're continuing to do.
Thank you, Audrey.
Thank you, Audrey.
You're welcome. Love y'all.
If anyone has public comments, if they want to raise their hand.
Hey y'all, it's Brandon. I wasn't gonna comment because Audrey, I think we should leave it at that if nobody has comments. Well done, Audrey. Nothing but love from me,
Thanks,
and
Brandon.
my family, and from far.
Wonderful. Thank you. That's a good, yeah, we'll leave it at that unless someone raises their hand quickly. That's a good note to leave it on. So we'll see everyone again. I also wanted to just call out the staff. I can see your names on the Zoom call. Thank you for being with us. You guys did an amazing job with all of the changes to, support our residents lately. So thanks for being with us tonight too.
Yeah, a huge thank you to staff. All of us who have been doing any remote working from home, it's just like this tremendous challenge, and you guys have really been putting it in, found really creative ways to support residents, to hear their voices. It's really great.
Okay, if we have no other public comments, could I get a motion for adjournment?
I motion to adjourn the meeting, please.
I second.
Okay, and we'll do a roll call vote. Mayor Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Osteen, Mr. Osteen, I don't see his phone number. He may have dropped out. Ms. Slaughter,
Yes.
Ms. Goldblatt,
Yes.
Ms. Oliver,
Yes.
myself, yes. And Mr. Osteen, are you still there? You may have dropped off. Okay. Well, the vote carries, and we will adjourn. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.
Night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.